Well, hey there, folks. It is I, Gordon, and I am just getting ready to get started. And today is the 23rd of February, Thursday, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. As you know, this is the time slot when I record my Legit Podcast Pro show, and I'm going to get things set up, and then I'm going to get to it. So bear with me while I do a little bit more of the setup. And I'm going to let you see behind the scenes while I do that. So let me, there's a button I need to push that will let you see what's called live demo mode. So now I should be able to show you. I don't know if you're seeing my whole screen or what you're seeing, but options, live demo mode on, and yeah, if I show you, if I give you my screenshot, not that screen, but go to Ecamm Live Beta. There you go. Now you see much of what I'm doing. See, there's that. I'm gonna move this window onto that screen also, so you can see it as well. Oh, maybe you don't see that window. Okay. Anyway, well, I know a couple of people are going to be watching. I'm going to wait a few minutes before I get too far into it. I'm going to switch over to the other mic. Testing 1 2 3 1 2. Check. Testing 1 2 3. A B C D E 1 2. Okay, so that is my Shure MV7, and now I've got to get this image into. Where's my screen? Okay, here we go. I got to get an image into this other, onto the title card. Talk to you for a moment. While I do this, I'm just going to load up this image that I've already made into. Go through all of my different. Dump this. Come back to here. Where's the. One. Okay, so now I'm just getting set up with getting rid of this screen, and you're seeing me all of what I'm doing behind the scenes today. So just bear with me whilst I load up the title card for this episode. There it is, and move that back to here. Get this thing deleted, and if you're watching while I get set up, just say hello, something in the comments. It'd be nice to hear from you, and I'll give you a shout out. And so what I do is I do publish the live stream for a day or so, but then I clean it up and do the editing and post it as a YouTube podcast as well. So it's going to be fun. Anyway, let me come back here and look at you now. You can see. I think what you're seeing now is my various screens. Oh, and I don't have my other fun camera plugged in at the moment. Where's the Logitech Brio? Why is that one not show? Oh, that's this camera up here. And okay, well, cool. So I'm gonna go back to my main camera shot. Who's here watching? Say hello. I see somebody gave me a thumbs up, and so I'm going to just do this recording of episode in a minute. I just have to look at that shot one more time. Okay, I think I'm ready to go. Come back into my app here, and yeah, of course the darn Stream Deck isn't giving me the right screen, so I'll go fix that too. Configure this and come into edit this. When I'm in teleprompter, none. I want to be on my, here we go. I'm just setting up so that I have my tools. I thought I'd fix this weekend, but it didn't take, apparently. So, teleprompter tool. Gotta find it. There we go. So now when I go into my teleprompter app, my Stream Deck will show me the right stuff. Hopefully. Yeah, because the profile I had set up for the teleprompter wasn't working right. All right. So when I come into here, it's not giving me the right screen, or maybe it has to do that. Hold on. Anyway, sorry, you're seeing how the sausage is made here a little bit. It didn't work. All right, so I just got to get this loaded up properly. One more try, and then I will figure out the alternate plan. Let's just see here. Edit profiles. Ecamm Live Beta. I should be seeing that. Let's see here. Oh, I see what's going on. We had some kind of a little hiccup here. It's kind of strange. Now when I come here, now I've got the right one. It's Bo. Nice to see you. Good to give you a little shout out. So Bo, I don't know if you saw the behind the scenes view of what I'm doing with when I'm looking at Ecamm. So I'll show you what I've got here. So right now you're just looking at me on essentially camera one, and Bo and I were just talking. She interviewed me for her show. So let me switch back over to my screen. That's not the right screen. That's the wrong screen. Although, is it? What are you seeing? Should be seeing my nope, that's my secondary display. You should be seeing the primary display. That's not it either. You should be seeing Ecamm. Here we go. And it's not showing you the right. There you go. No, okay, so I have two screens going, and the window that you are seeing is usually over here on this left side where I'm looking, but you can't tell. I also have a teleprompter on this screen, but then I've got 4 different cameras and scenes and all this. So I've really got a whole television studio right here in my laptop, or not laptop, my Mac Mini. And anyway, so what I'm going to do is actually turn off this feature that lets you see my whole screen, because I don't want it to happen when I'm making the actual recording. And I'm going to get started with that actual recording here in just a moment. And hopefully everything is going to work the way it's supposed to when I get started. So today we're going to be talking about libel and privacy and whether it's safe to talk about other people. And let's see if we can make it happen in one take. All right. So here we go. I'm going to do this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Is it safe to talk about other people on your podcast, or do you need to worry about... I'm going to do this again. I messed up. Make sure I'm... Okay. I have to stop the music. And my buttons on my Stream Deck, something's not working right. So got to get back in here and try it one more time. All right, here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2. Libel, slander, privacy. Is it safe to talk about real other people on your podcast? I'm Gordon Firemark, the podcast lawyer. Stick around and we'll talk about this and more. So I got this question from a viewer, and I thought it would be worth discussing. I've talked about this before on the show, but I will talk about it again, I'm sure. She says, I was thinking about getting into podcasting, and I have a few people who've agreed to talk about their healing through and from their relationships, how they've healed and how their life experiences and so on. And she's downloaded my podcast release form, which you can get at podcastrelease.com. There it is. Let's see. Podcast. It's none of it's working on my button. Anyway, podcastrelease.com, you get the release form. And she's now asking me, is it safe for me to move forward with this show? Because I suspect that they are going to reveal private information. So is it safe? Well, really, it all depends on how you go about things and what they say and those kinds of things. But generally speaking, here in the United States, we've got a very powerful First Amendment. Freedom of speech is powerful. So, look, people do not have any kind of ownership right of the facts of their lives. So, if I want to talk about someone I used to date or something like that and how things went with us and so on, generally speaking, it is legal for us to talk about other people as long as what we're doing is truthful, as long as we're telling the truth, and as long as you're not revealing what's inherently private information or somehow because of the technology you're using, if you're intruding into their private space or showing, private photos or videos, things like revenge porn are certainly illegal, and just revealing very private stuff. So first, what we have to do is talk about defamation. You want to make sure that you are not publishing defamatory statements about people. This can happen when your guests are trash talking their exes, for example, something like that, or someone they worked with. Defamation is the umbrella term that covers slander, which is when statements are made, orally transmitted between a small number of people in a small group with no technology or recording or any of that kind of thing going on. And libel is the more widely disseminated statements that are made using, when you're in a big audience, big environment where there's a lot of people in the audience, or you're recording or broadcasting or podcasting, doing YouTube, those kinds of things. So that would be libel. And in this instance, when you're talking about a podcast, it's going to be libel. Now, a statement is defamatory, or it is libel, if it is false and published in a way that causes harm to the reputation or the person standing in the community of a particular identifiable person. As long as so it needs to be a statement that purports to be a fact that's false, and when published refers to this particular identifiable person and hurts their reputation or causes them to lose their standing in the community or suffer business losses or those kinds of things. Now, when the person you're talking about is a public figure, like, I don't know, a police chief or a president or maybe an actor or some sort of celebrity, an athlete, well, they would also then have to prove an additional element. Not only do they have to prove that you published a false statement that looked like a fact, but it was actually false and it hurt their reputation, they also have to prove actual malice. That is, that you knew or should have known the statement is false. So here's the thing. You have a guest on your show, and the guest starts talking about their ex-spouse or ex-relationship or whatever, and they start saying things that either aren't true or that you can't prove are true, right? And even though it's the guest who is saying the thing, you, the podcaster, the host, the producer of the show, because you are the one recording and publishing and exploiting it, you can also be held liable. So this means you need to fact check any kind of statement that comes out of a guest's mouth that that could be, harmful to the person's reputation, is something you need to think hard about whether or not to include it. Now, in live streaming, what do you do if somebody says something and you're on a live stream? You can't go back and fix it in post because it's already out there. You can't unring a bell, is the expression that we use. But you can certainly question the person. Is that really true? Are you sure? That kind of thing. And that's a good approach, because then you are editorializing about the comment and making sure, do you have backup for that? Those kinds of things. And look, if you do fact check, you want to make sure you can verify this information from at least one other source other than the guest who's saying it. Okay? And especially, you got to be on the lookout for things like accusations that someone committed a crime, or that they suffer from some kind of a loathsome disease. Usually that's an STD or something, or leprosy is one of them, those kinds of things. Or that they engaged in some kind of business or professional misconduct or impropriety, or that the person is unchaste. Usually that's about women. It's a little archaic these days, but these things are considered libel per se, and it is assumed that if they're false, they can cause reputational harm. And it does not matter whether or not the statement being made was scripted or live or unscripted. If it's false and it hurts their reputation and it's an identifiable person and it's not just a mere opinion, or you're reporting on an allegation somebody made, those kinds of things. A factual statement about a person that's false and harms them, doesn't matter whether it was scripted or extemporaneous or anything else, you can be liable for it. So that's why you got to be really cautious and do the fact checking and be skeptical and those kinds of things. Now, on that knew or should have known malice standard, knew or should have known that it was false, obviously if you're doing scripted, you have more time and resources to investigate those kinds of things. But even then, the exigencies of things don't get you off the hook. So that's defamation. And those libel per se, the accusation of a crime, a loathsome disease, engaged in a business or professional misconduct or impropriety, or that a person is unchaste, well, those are libel per se. It's assumed that they're false, and that if they're false, they cause real harm, and you don't have to go proving a lot of damages in there. The court and the jury can just make an award. So that's the defamation part of this discussion. The other side of this discussion that we have to look at is privacy law. We have to look at whether or not you are revealing stuff that is inherently protected private stuff. Some details about people's lives just are supposed to be kept private. For example, suppose you're talking to a woman, you're interviewing about her how she recovered from her bad marriage or something like that, and she's talking about her ex, and she mentions that ex has some kind of weird kinky bedroom preference. So that's pretty private stuff that really ought to be off limits. And unless it really is newsworthy or a matter of some kind of public concern, I think you keep that out just to play it safe. It's off limits. Or suppose someone outs their ex in some kind of a same-sex relationship where that person hasn't ever been public. They've never been out of the closet about this. That could also be a private kind of a thing. Medical history, medical status, taking particular medications, that's protected by federal laws, HIPAA, and so we should respect those things as private as well. What else is educational records and history can be considered private, and employment records. Somebody being disciplined on the job for something, it may seem innocuous, but it could hurt their reputation. It could hurt their employment at the next job or something like that. So these kinds of things need to be, you think hard about them and make sure it's newsworthy and that it, you're justified in revealing it. Otherwise, bleep it, cut it out, question it, those kinds of things. Now, one way that some people try to protect themselves is to anonymize their guests by not allowing their true identities to be revealed, or to anonymize the people they're talking about. But that isn't always enough. Earlier today, I was talking to a woman who's writing a book about her experiences in a particular job, and it's a Me Too story and so on. And she's talking about the people she worked with at this particular company or business. And even though she's changed their names, she's using her own name. So anybody with a little deductive reasoning could go figure out what company we're talking about and who the bosses were and those kinds of things. So it's probably not enough to just sanitize the names of the people that guests mention, because you could still be liable if those people can be identified even without being named. For example, let's say you've got a guest who used to be a police captain back in Peoria, Illinois in 2015. Well, they're talking about the people they worked with. And even if you change the names of the command staff at the police station, it still would be possible for someone to figure out who they're talking about. And if you cause them a reputational injury or something, or you reveal private stuff about them, you could be held liable. So, what can you do to protect against these kinds of claims? Well, look, ultimately, it's a question of using your good judgment about each episode. And you can't have a rule of thumb that covers every situation. So, you got to listen back. You got to edit out things that you think could be questionable or harmful to somebody's reputation or invading their privacy or those kinds of things. And if you really have questions, you can always hire me or another lawyer familiar with this area of law. There's a handful of us out there. You could always hire me, excuse me, to do some pre-publication review if you have episodes that you're just not sure about or you're worried about and those kinds of things. So that's the concerns you have when you talk about other people on your show. So in the chat, I'm seeing Bree is asking me the question, is the responsibility ever placed on the digital host, the YouTube or the podcasting host or so on, versus the creator and author? And the answer to that is no. You might have heard in this week in the news, the Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act has been big news this week. The Supreme Court heard an important case about Section 230 and whether or not YouTube could be held liable for some of its actions in transmitting certain videos that radicalized an Islamic terrorist who then killed somebody. And in that instance, YouTube is relying on Section 230, which says that the provider of these internet information services that allow others to post, their users to post content, they are immune from lawsuits over this kind of stuff. And defamation and privacy are definitely that class of the kinds of things that they're immune from. Now, intellectual property law, copyright, we have the DMCA, the takedown procedures and so on. That doesn't exist for other kinds of claims. So it's very hard for an aggrieved plaintiff to come after the YouTubes, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the podcast host companies and so on. They have to go after the actual publisher of the material, and that's you, the podcaster, or the guest themselves. And the safe money for lawyers is go after everybody and let them sort it out among themselves. Let's you and him fight, basically. So that's sort of the lawyer game there. So you want to be really, really careful about these kinds of things. Now, I want to just take a quick moment to mention to you one of my other shows. Of course, for years I've been doing Entertainment Law Update, an audio-only podcast for entertainment law practitioners and students and folks in the entertainment industry. But just recently, I was invited to participate in a show on Numospect Media that we call Fuzzy Logic, and I thought I had a picture to put up here. So let me see if I can find that image. But it's me, and when we went looking for a co-host, we hit a home run. We got Elsie Escobar. Elsie is a well-known face and name in the podcasting and media creation community. And if you don't know her, you should. And she and I are hosting a live stream and podcast show every Friday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time. If you're in between them, you can figure out the time zone. It's on YouTube, and I usually simulcast it and stream it on my channels here on Facebook and YouTube and others as well. But come on over. You can go to fuzzy-logic, that's LAWGIC.com. I apologize. I don't have a title. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, I do. Here we go. fuzzylogic.com. And you can come on over there and check us out. We do that, like I said, every Friday morning, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. And we talk about issues relating to the media creation landscape. We've talked about artificial intelligence on our first episode. We talked about deep fakes on our second episode. And our third episode happens tomorrow morning. If you're listening to this or watching it in real time on Thursday. Friday, the 24th of March, we are covering the topic of um, misrepresentation, deception, fraud, and transparency, the need for transparency in marketing and communications. And we'll be talking about a host of things where this comes up as an issue. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's exciting. Elsie and I have a fun back and forth vibe, and the host moderator of the panel, Trevor Tomian, is fantastic. He does a nice job of keeping it light, keeping it fun, but also getting to the meat of the issues. And behind the scenes, Brie Campano from Numaspec Media Labs is pushing the buttons, making things happen, and making us look good. So it's a lot of fun. I will hope you will join us for Fuzzy Logic every Friday morning, and that's going to be about it for this episode of Easy Legal. Excuse me. This episode of Legit Podcast Pro is brought to you by Easy Legal for Podcasters, my signature course and tool set for podcasters and digital media creators. If you are looking to get legal and get legit, this is how you'll find out more about it. I've got a workshop coming up in a couple of weeks now. My legal business and legal fundamentals for podcast growth and profit is coming up in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned, listen in on this channel in the future, and we'll be inviting you to that as well. So that's going to be it for this episode of Legit Podcast Pro. I am Gordon Firemark, the podcast lawyer, and I'll see you again next Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific time for the next episode. Have a great week. And we're out. I'm done. Bree, thanks for being here. Stumbling over my tongue a little bit, but I appreciate the questions that asked there. Yeah, unchaste. Very, very 2023, right? Bo, are you still here? Did you enjoy that? And anyone else who's here watching, drop something in the chat and let me know you're here. I was giving a little demo at the beginning for how I do this from behind the scenes, because I just love this Ecamm Live software, and it lets me jump around and cut around on my various cameras. Hello there, and back over here, and plug in all the music, and it's live to drive. So I got a fully produced show there. I'm just going to go in and trim off the beginning and the end and publish this thing as an audio podcast as well. So thank you for being here. Thanks for watching. It's 4:30. It's time for me to sign off and be done for today, and get this editing done before dinner time around here. So thanks for watching. Have a great week, and I'll see you real soon. Take care.